Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's a beautiful Monday, June 30th, 2 days before July 1st. This is exciting. Last arena for the month. How are you doing, Dad?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It feels like a beautiful day in LA.
It's a very beautiful day. Many rainy days this year, but very beautiful today. As it's 10:02, we have a very exciting session prepared for you. Dad, you've been kind of working through. Oh, shoot, is there a question we should ask the group before we get started? Maybe just like a little icebreaker. If it's your first, second, or third time jumping on the call, please let us know in the chat. Love to give you a little arena welcome from the team and the family. Good morning, everybody. How was your weekend? Got a question for everybody, Dad?
Me? I thought you were going to ask the question.
I don't know. Um, question. What we got?
Um, well, maybe it's like what's the biggest opportunity that's in front of you
Mm,
that requires a level of courage to step into?
what's one risk you're unwilling to take?
I didn't say that. I'm assuming they're going to be willing to take it, Aaron.
I'm assuming everyone needs a little push.
Oh,
Caleb, where's your first talk? It's in Chicago. What's the scenario? Moving to LA. Juan's moving to LA. Amazing. Come to Mosaic. Check us out. Mark Barley's continuing progress on his book. It's exciting. Can't wait to read it. I brought a book to show everybody. I left it upstairs. Dad, there's a book on the coffee table behind you. Maybe Austin or one of the boys can grab it. But there's a book called Hungry by Jeff Gordon. It's one of my favorite books. Ordered a couple paperbacks this weekend to give to some of the guys on the team. But one of the best books on teaming, going through hard things in life and building something big, which is really exciting. If you haven't read that book, it's called Hungry by Jeff Gordon. He was the former food editor at the New York Times and was asked to write a book on, I guess, the number one chef in the world, Rene Redzepi. It's a great book. I saw it in The Bear last night. It was in the episode of The Bear, Dad.
hmm.
Sid was,
Oh, I love the bear.
Sid
What
was
a
on our
great
couch.
season.
The book was face open on the floor. It's kind of exciting.
If you haven't watched The Bear and you're working on building teams, you're missing out one of the best free leadership resources out there.
It's great. It's great. It will give you massive amounts of anxiety, but it's great. Okay,
Oh,
Dad, you developed something this last few weeks. You're calling it the 5 Ds.
I did. And, I'm going to start from the end here today because we have a kind of a hard out at 11
Okay.
and today. So I just want to give everybody a heads up that wherever we are, I got to tap out and have a phone call. And then, um, yeah, so we've been developing some material and I was really trying to process through chemical like compounds, like characteristics of people who step in at an optimal level, especially in the workplace, but in every arena of life. But I was really work focused when I was putting together this process. And so maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask everyone to rate themselves on a scale, and we're still going to do 1 to 10, although I think you kind of like the 1 to 5 scale, don't you, Aaron? And
I don't
um,
know.
but let's do 1 to 10 just to give ourselves a little leeway. Okay.
I think that's great. Yeah.
And so I'm gonna walk through 5 characteristics and then write down your number. One being I'm nearly dead, and 10 being I'm like amazing, couldn't possibly get better, and we'll go from there. All right, 5 Ds, and the first one is drive. And I want to begin here because even if you have no other characteristics and you have almost no other chemical compounds for leadership, drive will take you a long way. And a huge part of drive is um, measured by things like self-managing, um, self-motivated. You don't need a boss to ask you what you're doing or tell you what to do or to check on you. You are incredibly proactive. Um, you wake up and you know what you're going to do and you're going to get it done. And you bring a lot of energy, a lot of intentionality, a lot of focus, a lot of fire. And and this is for me like a starting point. when you're looking at how do you measure a high like level leader. And high level leaders, think about this. If you're on top of the pyramid, you've got no one over you asking you, what did you do today? You've got no one over you asking you, did you accomplish your goals today? You have no one over you saying, did you meet organizational expectations today? Uh, all of those questions have to be internal. And frankly, the spectrum from being self-managing to needing to be managed constantly is really the spectrum of the ceiling that you're going to have on the leadership grid. And so, a huge part for me is I'm driven to high achievement. I'm driven to uh, get better at what I do. I'm driven to accomplish things. If I don't get things done, I'm pretty miserable. And if I don't feel like I've moved the boulder forward even an inch, I can't go to sleep. And so a huge part of that is this internal mechanism. And if you're not sure about your drive, you should probably talk to your peers and to the people who supervise you and ask them on a scale of 1 to 10. In fact, if you have the courage to do this, go to the people around you, and 2 or 3 people, and go, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you measure me with drive? So right now, just write your number, whether it's 3, 6, 7, whatever, 2, 10. How would you measure yourself in drive? You're self-managing, self-motivated. You do self-evaluation of performance. You move towards your goals and objectives without anyone asking you, and you communicate back. Like no one has to ask you because you're the one giving the information. You're the one letting people know how you're doing. You're the one letting people know you've accomplished. And when something gets in the way of you accomplishing the goal, you find a way to get that goal accomplished. People without drive quit the moment something is hard. People without drive quit the moment their number one option doesn't pan through. They end up and they don't think they're quitting. They think they're pausing. And but the problem is that pausing looks a lot like quitting, like paralysis, and it can be incredibly frustrating when you're overseeing someone without drive. All right, drive number one. Number two is discipline. And the reason I kind of begin here is because if you have a baseline, it's drive and discipline. And if I could define discipline, actually, Aaron, I think I sent you just like a personal definition of discipline a few
You
days
did.
ago,
You did.
and and this was just like my own um, personal description for myself. In that I feel like
Want me to read
discipline.
it?
Yeah, yeah. Can you find it? Oh, here it
Yeah.
is.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I put down discipline is the boundaries, habits, and sacrifices that create the self-imposed pain necessary to attain the skills, competencies, and goals to which I aspire to. And so basically, discipline is the commitment to establish patterns, habits, um, boundaries in your life that are the infrastructure for your drive. And so if your drive is, I'm going to accomplish this, your disciplines are, and these are the necessary components to achieve that goal. And so if you have drive without discipline, you're going to have kinetic energy going in all kinds of directions, but you may never accomplish the goal. And so it's really, really simple in terms of applying this in certain disciplines. It's harder in others. So it's easy. I think it's why we tend to use athletics as a framework, because it's easier to see how this construction works in an athlete. And so you can identify the disciplines necessary to become a world-class athlete. You can't always identify the disciplines necessary to become a world-class accountant or a world-class talent manager or a world-class teacher. But you have to identify the disciplines necessary. So it's not about having random disciplines or being highly structured or being highly predictive. It's about understanding the disciplines necessary to achieve your highest level of competency. And are you willing to take on those disciplines? And this is not about talent. This is not about skill. This is not about intelligence or education. It really is about choice, because discipline is about the choices we make every single day that create the internal infrastructure to accomplish our biggest goals and aspirations. And so if you're going to be a writer, you have to have the discipline of writing, and you also have to have a discipline of reading, because if you're not a big reader, you're not going to be a great writer. It's going to you have to have a high learning value. And so you have to take on disciplines in that area. If you don't want to be a writer, you don't need the disciplines of a writer. If you're not going to be a long distance runner, you don't need those disciplines. You need the disciplines to accomplish your goals. So a huge part of it is, what does the optimal version of you look like? And what are the disciplines necessary to become that person? What are your big aspirations and big goals? What do you feel is the highest talent version of you? And then what do the disciplines look like that are the necessary infrastructure to optimize your talent, your ability, your capacity? And those two are foundational. I would almost put them in a foundational box: drive and discipline. If you don't have those two, the rest of them will not have the impact that they need. But now on discipline, write your scale 1 to 10. I'm assuming no one here is a 0. You got up this morning, you showed up at the arena, and you're dressed, and you probably brush your teeth. You have some basic disciplines that got you going. And so at least give yourself a 1, and then work from there. And maybe, you're a Michael Phelps. Maybe you really are a 10. But Michael Phelps would be a great example of looking at how discipline and drive matches outcomes and for his life. That's like a ideal model. All right. Now the next layer up. The next one is decisiveness. And I want to be very clear with what I mean here, because this word can be misunderstood. And even as I was teaching it to our team, I don't feel like I unwrapped the nuance of it really significantly. Decisiveness isn't about being rigid. It's not about the ability to make a decision and hold to it. Decisiveness, from this framework, is the ability to make hard decisions in the middle of chaos, in the middle of change, with the ability to have high adaptation when you gain new information, new insight. And so what happens a lot of times is that there are people who consider themselves decisive, but really what they are is rigid. And they make a decision and they never change. And there are other people who consider themselves adaptive, but what they are actually is indecisive. Decisiveness is the ability to make the best decision in the moment with a continuous openness to reevaluate that decision based on new information, new experience, and new learning. And what I find in so many leaders is that they lack this nuanced ability in decisiveness to make decisions and still remain completely open to new information to make a new decision. So it's the ability to be closed and open at the same time. If you're only closed, you do not make new decisions. But if you're only open, you do not make any decisions. and so there's this dynamic tension in decisiveness. You make a judgment, you make a decision, but you also know that this is the best decision I can make right now. If new information comes in, if new learning happens, if experiences teaches us something that we didn't know, if we get a new perspective, I'm willing to change that decision when I see the better decision. And that is the dynamic of decisiveness that I'm talking about. And now on a scale of 1 to 10, write yourself down here, because you might find yourself going, oh, I'm too open. I'm always indecisive. I can't ever make a decision. And so I see my virtue as openness, but really it's also my Achilles heel. Or I'm too closed. I see myself as as highly decisive, but really what I am is I'm rigid and inflexible, and I'm not open to new information, because once I make a decision, it's closed. And then, so rate yourself on that 1 to 10 there. Then after decisiveness, I want write down the word detailed, because this is the interesting contrast. You have to be able, people have to have confidence in your ability to make decisions. And people lose confidence in your ability to make decisions if you don't make a decision. And they lose confidence in your ability to make decisions if you can't change your decision. And that's the decisive side. But then there's the detail side. when you really move to a high level of leadership, you have an acute and unusual ability, perception of detail. Now, and this is a little tricky because, in terms of personality structure, there are some people who are highly sensatory and some people who are highly intuitive. And there are people who they process reality through their senses: sight, touch, taste, feel, sound. And so those people tend to be more detailed. Then you have highly intuitive people who process information through unseen relationships and connections. And those people oftentimes become less detailed or unaware of the details. But here's the problem. When you're a high level leader, I've experienced this so many times over decades, where young people would say, "Oh, I'm a visionary. I'm not a detail person." And I go, "Oh, okay, you're not a leader, and you're just an idea person." And because once you're a leader, you understand there's a tension between vision and detail. And both of them are really critical to high level leadership. And so the problem sometimes is, if you're a completely sensatory person, is that you only see the details, you don't see the vision. And so you become detailed as if the details are the vision. But when you're going to move to a high level of leadership, you have to understand the vision. You have to have a big picture. You have to have a futuristic perspective. But you have to also then care about the details. And I think that's the difference. It's not necessarily that you see all the details or you know how to flesh them out, but you care about them. And I had a conversation yesterday, with someone just talking about, they're asking how can they increase their leadership ceiling. And I walked them through what's something they know needs to happen for growth. And they stated something, and immediately we could see something they'd walked by probably 1,000 times and never did anything about. And the reason is because oftentimes when you're not the driver, when you're not the person that growth is dependent on, you ignore details that affect growth, affect productivity, and affect culture. But when you're the leader and the future is, in a sense, in your hands, you're carrying the weight of that culture. The details now really matter. And you understand which details matter. Now, ironically, there's a little like cautionary tale here, because highly intuitive people, when they're stressed out, when they're anxious, when they're not healthy, focus on details that do not matter. And in fact, if you're married, if you ever have a fight with, "Why don't you close the toothpaste?" Or, "Why didn't you turn the light off?" Like you're fixating on a detail that really doesn't matter. And that's really not the kind of detail I'm talking about. That's what happens in toxicity, because when we get toxic, when we become stressed, when we become angry, when we feel frustrated, we just pick a detail. "I hate that you wear green all the time." Like you just like, where did that come from? It's a fixation on a meaningless detail. What leaders are able to do is connect the dots between detail and direction. They understand that this detail will shape the culture. This detail will slow down production. This detail will either move us toward the future or cost us the future. And they're able to see the value in decisions. And the best example I have of detail is Giuliani, when he was mayor of New York, focusing on the crime rate in New York by eliminating the graffiti. And if you want to look at strategic detail, pick up Tipping Point, go back and review it again with Malcolm Gladwell. And that's where you really get a keen sense of how detail informs direction. So you can write your scale there from 1 to 10 on how detailed you are. And it's funny because leaders roam. That to me is like, it should be a mantra. And because leaders roam. And one of the things that the world of soccer really notes is how Messi is always moving. He's always walking. He's not wasting energy, but he's always moving around and walking around, because he's creating an awareness of the details of the moment. And he sees all the spaces. He doesn't see the players only, he sees the spaces in between the players. Great leaders roam. and they begin to perceive things simply by being fully present that other people overlook. And then the fifth D is diplomacy. And and I think this one is really, really important because, well, if I invert it, it becomes unhealthy. Organizations that only focus on diplomacy tend to be accommodating. They basically keep people if they don't cause problems, and uh, and they actually see compliance as diplomacy, and that's not what I mean. And diplomacy is actually the ability to do the hardest things with extraordinary kindness. And it's that framework where there are maybe two ways to get something done. It's the way you get it done regardless of how it affects people, and the way you get it done when how it affects people is part of the outcome goal. And one of the things I told the guys that I was a great compliment to me when I was young was that people would come up to me and say, "You could tell us that we are going to hell," and we would all say thank you. And one of the powers of diplomacy is that you can actually speak harsh truth to people, but you do it in such a way that that person feels valued and loved. Now, here's a little caveat to diplomacy. I've almost never known anyone who thought the process of being fired was the right process. And I have almost never known anyone who thought the process for a decision that they hated was the right process. And people go, I don't disagree with your decision. I just disagree with your process. And the truth is, no, they disagree with the decision. So there was no process to get there that they would agree with. And so you have to realize that diplomacy doesn't mean everyone will like you. Diplomacy doesn't mean everyone will love the process that you use all the time. But diplomacy is the ability to diminish conflict rather than to accelerate it. It is the ability to minimize damage rather than to actually accelerate damage. And the reason diplomacy is so important in these 5 Ds is that a temporary win will actually hurt your long-term good if you don't think through the implications and ramifications of your words and your actions. And so many times, 6 months later, a year later, the fallback of a non-diplomatic choice actually hurts your organization, your productivity, your culture, your future, because you didn't care about how you process that person. And so in that sense, I would say great diplomacy knows how to treat enemies with respect, even when they don't deserve it, because you're a person of respect. And this is kind of a controversial position in some ways, because I think sometimes we feel like people should get what they deserve. And but I actually think the highest level of diplomacy has zero need for revenge, zero need for retaliation, and zero need to crush that person so that they know that you've won. The most diplomatic people win without other people going, they won at my loss. And it's an unusual and uncanny skill set that is really at the highest level. And so I look at these 5 Ds, and I actually think they become a self-selective filtering process where if you go, I don't know if you ever felt this, any of you, why didn't they choose me? Or, why don't I get that promotion? Or why don't people see my leadership capacity? And what I would say is look at these 5 areas and go, which one of these is below like a 5? Because that may be what is missing when people are evaluating who they're going to entrust with a higher level of responsibility or a bigger project, and or just the next, great leadership role. All right, I'm going to stop here, Aaron, because we're about halfway through, and see if we want to interact and have some questions.
Do we want people to average out their score?
Oh yeah, we should do that. Why
When we take
not?
questions?
Let's have an arena moment.
That's where Mark, you'll be the first question. But I just Dad, I thought that was a great exercise you did on Monday. Do you want to have people average them out? How do they
Yeah,
get?
yeah. Average out your scores, and if you'd like to self-disclose, you're welcome to drop them into the chat. And then after you total your scores, I would encourage you this week to go talk to at least three people in your life without you telling them how you self-rate and explaining each one, wanted to help you to transfer these principles and then have them rate you. But give them the definition for each one. So write down in your own words after our session the definition for each word, and in one sentence, no commas. And in the one I would especially say you need to be clear on is decisiveness. And should you take in consideration your frequencies? No, not right now. Just take in consideration the five characteristics of high level leadership. All right. Well, you guys are averaging out. A lot of you are very high. And add the five numbers and give us a total. So it'd be either a low of 5 or a high of 50. All right. Aaron, you there?
I'm here. Just kind of give everybody a second. Are you seeing all the scores in the chat, Deb?
I am. Of course, the score is going to be skewed a little high here because you guys are the arena.
Okay, we're gonna toss you some questions. Uh, hey Mark, how you doing?
Marvelous. How are you all today?
Good.
So fascinating process, Erwin, as usual. What keeps hitting me is mine seem to be situational and not integral. I can be a 10 in almost anyone if I'm into it, if I'm leading it as opposed to following, if I'm if the stuff's going wrong, I get really interested and get much more focused. I prefer to go into situations where the crap's hitting the fan. So is that a weakness or something I need to work on? It's I can vary any score between probably 6 and 9. My weakest is discipline at 6, which is probably why this is situational. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's because you like tactical challenges and you like short-term crises that you can go fix. And they interest you as long as they're a crisis. And then when they're not a crisis anymore, you're like, now I'm not interested anymore. You're a strategic firefighter.
I can live with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just recognize that you need a fire. And the thing with firefighters is that, they look unemployed except when there's a fire.
Well, I never desire to lead. I really don't. I'm a better follower than I am a leader. But when stuff goes sideways, I see leaders fail, and I have a tendency to step in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's probably just your inherent design. You probably are almost like in a point of status, where you're okay not doing a lot of things. And then when the crisis comes, that's when you accelerate. Then afterwards, you go back down and you just become chill. And so I just think you recognize that's kind of your pattern, but that also means you don't really like running companies. You don't like running organizations. You'd rather be brought in for the short term and then step out.
Well, and anymore, most of the things I used to have to do, I don't have to do anymore.
Yeah, which makes you happy.
Which, yeah, I spend most of my life really happy.
No, I think it's a tactical style, and I think you just accept it and you go, "That's the way I function best."
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Hey Warren.
Hi, Erwin. Aaron, thank you for this. My lowest number in the area was discipline. I had a 4. and detail, I think, was my second lowest 6. So in trying to implement this to up my game, what do you recommend I do with, let's say, self-talk and sitting down with myself, having a meeting and saying we need to make some improvements here?
Yeah, funny, Mariah, I think it was one who noted that if you put this on a star grid, um, decisiveness and drive kind of go together, and then discipline and detail kind of go together on the two sides there. And so probably the discipline and the detail are your weak side. And the problem there is that there is no easy path to improvement. So just straight up, it's going to require discipline. and and so what I would do is go, okay, I'm not going to become a 10 like today, but I can become a 5. So sit down and go, okay, what are the disciplines I already have? So you can give yourself a little, applause, and because you do have some disciplines because you have some, impact, and go, what's one specific discipline I could add to my life that would have an exponential impact? And how do I increase that in an incremental way? Where I think a lot of times we fail is we try to make exponential change in an area of weakness. And really what you want to do is add just a piece of structure to the whole. And go, okay, I'm going to add that. And so could be, I need to be a better researcher because I'm working with people expect me to have expertise. So but I don't have high focus because I don't have discipline. And so go, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 30 minutes a day to do massive research. Just for 30 minutes, I'm going to add to my, to my pool of knowledge. Or even if it's just, by the way, I would do it 15. 15 minutes never feels overwhelming with almost anything you add. But if you get into that 15, about minute 10 or 11, you'll forget that it's a 15-minute commitment. And you'll find yourself staying in there longer. Because most of the time, people with a lack of discipline in an area, where they have the hardest time is the starting. Once you're in there, you actually have more capacity than you know. Does that make sense?
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's just the whole idea of the guy who was out of shape. And so at first, all he did was drive to the gym and sit in the parking lot. And every day he would just drive to the gym and sit in the parking lot until he established a pattern. And then one day he walked inside. But it was a starting point for him because it was just so far behind in his discipline patterns. And they would detail, one of the things I would do is just take, again, 15 minutes and be highly reflective by walking and going, what are some things I'm missing? What are details? What are small things that would make an incremental increase? Even in your relationships, like one of my small things was I always left my shoes downstairs. And now, and it probably drove Kim insane to the point she just didn't say anything anymore. And so one of the small things that, okay, every night I just got to go through and make sure I picked up my tennis shoes or picked up my shoes and put them away somewhere. And so it's just a small incremental improvement on the detail, and it actually affects the relationship.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Warren. Serena,
Hey
are you moving
guys,
to LA?
that is the plan by year end.
Oh,
wow.
So we're risking it all, but I'm sweating actually talking about it. That's not my question.
okay.
As someone who is very detail oriented, right? And I, marrying kind of the vision and the details, etc. I noticed in your talk that my diplomacy goes out the window when I sense that people don't have a care for the details. And I need to get better at that, because while details may be super important to me and in executing our vision, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has that same level of care. And so how do I adjust my diplomacy and really put the person over the details, but not necessarily over the vision, because I think vision is important, right? And what we're trying to accomplish is really important, but not letting the details kind of overtake um, the relationship with the person.
Yeah. First of all, there are multiple reasons why people miss details. Oh, only one of them is they don't care.
Mhm.
Okay,
I
but
take it as they don't care.
I know, no, I'm saying, and just it's because you care and you see the details. But some people don't care. Okay, but that's not all of them.
Mhm.
Some of them don't see,
Mhm.
and it's really hard when to accept the fact that this seeing person is actually blind, and
Mhm.
that it's not that they don't care, they just don't see. And then
Okay.
there's a third group of people that don't understand.
Mhm.
And they're the group that you can actually move fastest, because if they don't understand the value of the detail, they actually don't have the capacity to see that the detail needs to be changed when it needs to be changed. And
Mhm.
so it goes into their subconscious. They see it and they go, oh, wow, somebody should do something about that. And then it never goes to a front burner. And so they probably have that thought at some point, oh, I should do something, or that should change, but it's not important enough for them, because they go, oh yeah, but these are other things. So for some people, details are unimportant.
Mhm.
For some people, um, they're urgent, and for some
Mhm.
people, they're important but not urgent. And what you have to decide is, where are those details that you're having conflict over on that scale?
Mhm.
Are they actually not important, but you're just detailed, so every detail matters to you?
Yeah.
And you know,
Yes.
are they important, but they're not really urgent important? So the person put it on the back shelf because more important things had to be done. So they're
Mhm.
not being irresponsible; they're just overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
so those are the details that are being overlooked. Or have you not communicated well enough for them, or maybe they or someone else hasn't, that they're both important and urgent,
Yeah.
and that they affect the whole so significantly that we can't not do this? Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah.
And so some of it is with the people that you feel like they don't care. It's like sitting down and going, hey, let's figure out where these details are for you on your scale.
Yeah.
You know, because
And that's super helpful.
they're not on the same scale for me as they are for you.
Mhm.
And so what I'd like to do is just come to a common mind of where we should put those details.
Got it. No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm I'm screenshotting Warren Matson's comments, Dad, in the chat, because Josh Kraft has spotty Wi-Fi where he's at, and he asked for some notes, and Warren said, "You will still want to review this. We are drinking from a fire hose." Uh, hey, Antonio, how you doing, man? You got a sec?
Good, good, good. How you guys doing? Um, so good to see you guys. Erwin, I feel like just in the time, and I think Aaron as well, it feels like both you guys are artists at heart. You're running companies, you're scaling, you're building. I don't think I've seen you guys do anything that hasn't felt thoughtful, considered, and detailed. So I guess my question is, have you wrestled, Erwin, in the past with your desire to see things done well and have beauty in it and have thoughtful like concepts and things executed? Have you seen that desire slow you down in getting things done and scaling a business? And how have you wrestled with the tension between kind of being an artist and an entrepreneur, even though you may not be a painter? You're like building a business, you're doing different things. Because I find personally, uh, like I'm always sacrificing something at the altar in the scale of a business when you want things to always be done with a sense of excellence and detail, but you don't always have time.
Well,
And I guess
Antonio, that is
just to
such a good
finalize that,
question.
yeah, and I mean to say this, I guess part of the thing I'm interested in is that, has this been a personal challenge for you, and how have you wrestled with it and been successful? And maybe I haven't, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. What comes to mind is a conversation I had a few years ago. I was at this event
Oh
called
shoot,
the,
let's see.
what's wrong?
Okay, I'm good. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, a few years ago, I was at this event, this community called the 100 Million Mastermind, and this guy came up to me who was very, very successful, and and he said, you know what your problem is? And I didn't ask him. I wasn't really looking for that, but I said, what is my problem? He said, you're actually an artist. And then he said, me, and he named someone else. We're all just about the money. and and he goes, and being an artist slows you down. But since we're all about the money, we don't have that holding us back. and and he was right. Uh, if you have any part of you that is an artist, and I don't mean like a painter, but that is moving through your essence, that the quality and beauty and elegance and integrity of what you're doing matters, it will slow you down. And it does eliminate certain options along the way because it violates your core being. And it is really funny because he was actually even talking about another where he goes to church and his pastor going, me and my pastor, we're all about the money. And and you can actually be driven to create, and I don't think it's about the money, it's about success, it's about impact. It's like there can be a lot of things that drive you. But Antonio, the thing that you want to do is don't let those things slow you down by on accident. Only let them slow you down through intention. And so if you go, no, this is who we're going to be. This is a part of our value system. This is what carries us forward. Then you're not like going, oh, I'm being stupid. I'm being slowed down. No, I'm actually making objective, intentional decisions. But yes, I have struggled with this many, many, many times because for me, having been a pastor for so many years but more than that, being a person who represents Jesus in the world, I'm always thinking about, man, I don't want to communicate something in a way that would be dishonoring to that. And to say it doesn't slow me down would be dishonest. It does slow me down. I am really thoughtful about these things. Uh, One time I had a book and they hired the secular marketing company and they wrote up this beautiful storyline of who I was and how to market the book. And I had to call them up and I say, this is awesome. It's just not true. and they said, yeah, but everything is true. We just reorganized it. Yeah, they took all these true things and wrote a story about me that wasn't true. And I remember going back and saying, I am so sorry, I'm not interesting enough for you to market me. And we eventually went our own ways because they felt I was unmarketable in their perspective because I wouldn't let them tell a story that I didn't feel was true to me. And in the same way, build your company. What are you going to do if you build a company that isn't true to who you are as a person? Then you're trapped. You've built your own grave. So you want to build a company that you can look in the mirror and go, I'm really proud of what I built and I'm proud of the way I built it because it made me a certain kind of person. You're not just building a company, you're building a you. And your company becomes a reflection of the you that you're becoming. So yeah, that tension's all there. It's a good tension. I hope you never lose that tension.
Jacob, that's a clip right there. Hey, Caleb, how you doing, man?
Amazing. I'm feeling exposed through my self-assessment, and I want to ask you a question, actually to you and Aaron. Aaron, you can also answer this because I have such a high tension with wanting to live slow with my life, wanting to have like a textured experience of life in my 20s, but also having a high drive in areas of my life that really matter, like my career or my academics. And so I wanted to ask you, like, what advice would you guys give me as I'm looking to increase my drive? Because it's at about a 6 right now, but to also have a textured life. Is that possible? Is that unrealistic in your 20s? What do you guys think?
I don't think it's impossible. I actually think drive can be focused on having a textured life. Like, oh, that's what drives me, is having a life where I remember this experience. I don't want to wake up one day, be 30 and go, what happened in my 20s? I want to be able to remember and go, oh, that was a really great decade. And so remember, drive isn't always about money or power or fame or success. Drive can be as powerful for a determination of the man you're going to become, of the life you want to live. So just go, no, I'm driven. These are the things that drive me.
I love it. Michael, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing? Good
So
to see
good.
you. Excellent. So I tend to be very high on the visionary side of things, but not to the point where I'm ineffective. But I'm kind of the opposite of Serena's question. What advice do you have for balancing that tension between vision and detail and really knowing what the most important details are to focus on and how to not beat myself up when I don't see something? For like example, this weekend, there was a smudge on the back wall behind you when you spoke, and I didn't see it until like the middle of the message. It's like, well, shoot, we should have fixed that. But there were other things that we did take care of that were great. So it's like, and I was like giving myself a little hate over that. But how do you find, how do you parse those things more proactively, I guess?
Yeah. Well, one, that's such a perfect example because you can aspire for perfection and you're always going to fall short of it.
Yeah.
You know, and so some of it may be actually developing different processes and going, I didn't see the smudge, but I also didn't have anyone I was training to look for smudges.
Right.
You know, and so go, okay, maybe I'm trying to see too many things myself.
Hmm.
And I need to make sure the team is big enough. Because what happens is if you have too small of a team, it's just too many details.
Right.
And you know, but you know, it's just like the other day I was there at Pasadena and I saw a billboard and it was all warped. I took a photograph, I sent it in, I said, hey, let's fix this. It's like you I just walk around and I know I don't see everything.
Hmm.
But I try to train people to be able to be more aware. So I would say it's one of those things, Michael, where you have the value and you actually do see a lot of the detail. And you have to realize, we don't always catch them all.
Sure.
You know, but then go back and reevaluate instead of hating yourself, going, okay, what could we have done to be able to have someone see the detail? The answer isn't,
And that was such a fair answer because I texted the same people about those work billboards and I said, who are we? Do we hate our friends because we're making our friends look ugly? We hate
Right.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And you can see everything. Are you trying to see everything? You can't see everything really, but you can see more. Are you trying to see more? That was the whole combo we had last night in the
yeah.
car ride back.
And so, but Michael, the reflection part isn't necessarily even just how can I see more, is how do I build a team that sees more?
So good.
Yeah.
I love that.
How
Thanks.
do you build a team that sees more?
Yeah.
Dead.
You one, you have to train them to see it the way you see, Michael, because you do actually see a lot.
Hmm.
And then you have to walk them through how someone could have seen this much, how someone could, how the team could be better at this. Because most people don't see it, but a lot of people see it and don't take any responsibility for it.
Hmm.
See, that's the person I'm more frustrated with,
Right.
is the person who sees it and discounts it and goes, oh, it's okay. Because that means that you've accepted a lower standard of quality.
Hmm.
When you look at it later, go, dang it, I didn't see it. I should have. That means
Right.
you have a standard. You just didn't see that detail.
Right.
But
But
most people don't actually even have the standard. What
I
are you
also
gonna say?
find there's a fascinating thing that happens where you're focused on a certain thing that you need to accomplish, and then there's a blindness that happens in other areas because you're so focused on solving this one thing that the other thing can sometimes become completely unaddressed. Like sometimes I'll be on the headset and I hear half of your message because there's so much stuff going on. So I can't wait to
Yeah.
listen to it today. I missed most of it.
And sometimes it's the process of preparation, because if you're doing things at the last minute, you're going to miss more details.
Mhm.
If you have more time for prep, you're going to miss fewer details.
Mhm.
Because once you're in that moment, you are required to have hyper focus.
Yeah,
And that's why you have to have other people who can actually be responsible for broader focus.
that's good.
Dead Leo in the chat had asked earlier, like what do I do when I see too many details? And I think a part of it is not every detail is created equal.
That's right.
The chat is like knowing that nuance and that taste, that touch of knowing what details to focus on are really important. And I would say I would base success on how quickly you identify the detail and get and make change.
Mhm.
Because identifying it's great, lists are great, but lists where nothing's checked off are worthless. And so it's
Yeah,
like if you can do something about it in the moment, do something. Don't wait. You do something right after, don't wait. Like me and Allison have a list going right now of everything we're going to change about Erwin's room behind him. The session.
yeah, yeah. The thing is, it's not telling people there's a problem. It's bringing how you can solve that problem right away. That's actually more helpful. Because really the last thing you need is 50 people coming to you and going, Michael, this is a mess. This is not right. What you need people is going, hey, I'm going to go fix this, or I'm going to, can I change this? And proactive solution making is really what we want. We don't want, we don't want proactive problem finding, but problem solving.
That's good.
Mm,
Thanks, guys.
okay. Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Hey, um, how are you guys?
Hey,
My question is, so when I was doing the rating system, especially in the area of detail, what I find, and I'm really curious what you think about this dissonance, where it's like I am a highly detailed person, especially when I am hired or brought in and I am under someone. When I'm pursuing my own things, I'm like, we'll see, like it's like I become this person that I'm not really. Like I actually have it, but I show up different for other people than the way I show up for myself. What
I,
what is that dissonance?
it's because it's not about detail. It's about decisiveness.
Mm,
When you're working for other people, they're making decisions. When you're doing it for yourself, the struggle is being indecisive. And that looks like you're not being detailed, but it's because you're waiting too long to make decisions. And when you come in, when someone else has already made the decisions, you're bringing your detail strength because it's their decision. Right? You don't have to carry that. But once you're in charge, is that the decision I really want to hold to? And
mm,
and the way indecisiveness plays out is a lack of detail. Because when you're making decisions at the last second, all our details are lost. And so you want to be careful there to not confuse lack of detail with actually with procrastination of decision. I don't
mm,
think you're a procrastinator of action, but you might be a procrastinator of decisiveness.
mm. And how do you grow that?
You have to learn how to live with your choices. And you have to go to your team. This is the best decision I can make right now. This is the information I have. So we're going to go at it 100%. It's almost like you have to live on Tuesday with all the information you have for Tuesday.
Mm,
And you can't go, yeah, but tomorrow on Wednesday, I might get new information. Go, great. Then we'll pivot on Wednesday, but we're going to go hard on Tuesday with the information we have.
got it.
Okay. Move
Ah,
from strength to strength, move from
mhm,
decision to decision, not from indecision to indecision.
got you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Ouch.
Awesome.
Thanks, Alex. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Great, Aaron. So thank you for this call. Thank you for you and for your dad. Appreciate it. Erwin, in the area of diplomacy, you said something a couple calls ago that was so helpful. You were said something like, "I'm not mad, but this is not meeting my expectations." And you were, I think, talking to somebody. So my question is, what are some additional diplomatic processes or phrases you recommend us to use when we have to say to someone, if you don't change, I'm going to need to fire you, or those because I'm very I think I hold on to people way too long, like you had said, and then a year later, it just implodes, and I knew I should have made some decisions earlier.
Yeah, I think one, working with humans is the most challenging thing. And if you are at all a kind, loving person, there's nothing worse than firing someone. It just, hiring is fun, firing is horrible,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know. And one of the things you kind of have to process through is um, how do I do, how do I make hard choices without bringing in heavy emotions?
Mm,
You know, don't do it when you're mad. Don't do it when you're frustrated. Do it when you have an ability to evaluate whether a person is the right person for the role. And so there's a lot of language you can use, but I really do like the I think it might be Simon Sinek who said something about um, I'm, or maybe it was Will Gadara. I'm inviting you to do this because I believe in your capacity to do it, to step up to the moment. Like, and
Good.
the problem comes when you no longer believe that person can or wants to step up to the moment.
That's good.
And, you know, and that's when that conversation has to happen, right? When you're like, I don't know, everybody, I'm not gonna say everyone, most people want to be successful. Very few people are willing to pay the price for the success they want.
Good.
And if you're filling the gap between the success you need them to have and the success they want, it's never going to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's
So
good.
I would say most of the language I try to create is believing in the best of other people. I don't try to impose a negative implication or motive on other people. I go, hey, if I want to live like this, I believe other people do. If I want to be the best, I believe other people do. If I want to be my best, I think other people do. So I reverse the language and go, I am assuming that you want to do your job well. I'm assuming you want to achieve this level of execution. And so let's talk about what's keeping you from getting there.
That's good.
You know, and so I just think the best way of forming language is one, ask, how would you like to be asked this question? How would you like to be told this hard thing? And then kind of reverse engineer the process and go, okay, I'm going to assume the best of the other person. And you know, it's a horrible thing. I've had a job where if I did my best, I was still only average. You know, and that's a hard thing to process as a human being. And then you have to ask yourself, is this what I want for me? And the challenging thing, Joe, is that some people that is enough for them. If I can do this job average and still have job security, I'm okay. And you have to decide whether you're comfortable in that world.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck. Okay, that was the last question for this session. But we know that you guys have more. We're seeing them in the chat, Caleb, Jenny, Scott. So we're going to create a space in the community main page for more questions following up with this. I hope the 5Ds were helpful. Dad, if you were to name this, the 5Ds of what? Of self-determination,
Oh,
description,
you know,
leadership.
it's funny because there's a passage in the Bible where God whittles down to 300 the people he wants to use for war. And he chooses the ones when they go get water, they grab the water with their hands and bring it to their mouth, and everyone else he sends home. And in my notes, I actually have the 300. And because that was the first selective sample in human history. And God actually selected people with certain characteristics to go to war and bring an unexpected victory. And so I actually think this is like the 5Ds maybe of optimal performance. So that's where I would put them. And but in my notes, I just put special forces. It's like it's the Delta Force of leadership.
Love it. Amazing.
Hey, I'm gonna big time you guys and say I got a call with the White House, and so I have to go.
You're so annoying. He literally goes, I have to get off at 11. I was like, why? I got a call. With who? The White House. It's like, you don't have to say it like that. Okay, have a great week, guys. We'll see you next session. Have a great 4th.
Love you
Enjoy.
guys. Have a great
Bye,
week.
guys.